Hey, glory to Jesus Christ, glory forever. It's great to be back with you all. We're a day early because tomorrow on Saturday I've got something scheduled. My birthday present. I'm going to go and do an apple seed. So if you want to Google that, you can figure out what I'm going to do tomorrow. It's a lot of fun. I've done one before. I love targets. So today we're blessed. It's so awesome. I just got to talk with him for just a minute, and my spirit's already up. With Father Shnork from Providence, Rhode Island. And he's just such a wonderful man, always has been, and an inspiring story. And also going to fill us in about, the martyrdom of Armenia in the previous century. And I don't know if you watched the news, maybe all you saw was election results and how to count votes. But there's been a war going on. And so he's going to help us understand that, because this is the real martyrdom in, this century. And I guarantee you, if you don't know anybody there, you know somebody who knows somebody there. So we're going to start out, and it'll be a lot of fun, but it's going to be a serious topic. So in order to get us ready for that, let's go ahead and we'll say our Jesus prayer together. Okay? All right, we'll do our square breathing, right, like we always do. All right, so breathe in slowly. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God. Pause. Breathe out slowly. Have mercy on me, a sinner. Pause. Breathe in slowly. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God. Pause. Breathe out slowly. Have mercy on me, a sinner. Pause. Last time together today. Breathe in slowly. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God. Pause. Breathe out slowly. Have mercy on me, a sinner. Pause. Okay, very good. All right, let's resume our normal breathing. And y'all, I got to tell you before I bring him on that it's such a blessing to have Father Shnork, not just because we're great friends and he's a tremendous resource on this, but also he's incredibly busy. He's got a very vibrant community there in Providence, and it would be their festival, but it's just a food sale, unfortunately. And here he is, Father Shnork. Christ is in our midst.
He is truly in our midst, and Father, bless me. It's great to see you again.
Oh, blessed is our God always. Yeah, it's great to see you.
A treat. And I'm so bad. I haven't been on Skype in years, and I was almost embarrassed that, oh no, I'm going to miss this call because I didn't do the preliminary work that was required to get me on. But here we are. We made it.
Here we are.
God's grace.
And just as a foretaste of what we're going to get to in a minute, you're wearing clericals, but you're also wearing something else.
And you're really the soldier. I'm a fake. I'm a soldier of a different type.
Right. But that's a real uniform.
Yeah. This is my son's Marpat. Is that what they call this version? This is the actual jacket, one of the many battle fatigues that he wore when he was in Afghanistan.
Yeah. And so why are you wearing it?
For the U.S. Army. So I'm wearing it today in honor of over 2,000 young, 17 to 25, maybe 30, some older actually, soldiers who were killed during this recent war in Artsakh, Nagorno-Karabakh, as you said. And we have a lot of injuries. A lot of boys have been badly injured and poisoned with phosphorus gas and various other things, cluster bomb injuries, all the very things that are forbidden by any kind of conventions and human decency they've suffered. And it's bad. I mean, they held out for over 50 days against Turkey and Azerbaijan. Turkey, we know, is the second largest military power in NATO. So they were intimately involved in the war. And the Armenians, who are a nation of, 2.5 million people in Artsakh and Nagorno-Karabakh, there are probably no more than 300,000 Armenians living in that region, which has never been recognized by the world. So the world knows it as Nagorno-Karabakh, the region of Azerbaijan, but an area that is historically Armenian. And the Armenians declared after the fall of the Soviet Union They declared their independence, and they declared their sovereignty over and against Azerbaijan, which is only a country which was created by Stalin after the Bolshevik Revolution, and where he annexed it and created this new thing called Azerbaijan. There's no such thing. There's no race of people called Azerbaijanis. And they declared their independence, they formed a government, and all they did for 30 years after their first war in 91 against the Azeris to exercise their self-determination was build schools, build hospitals, renovate their infrastructure. And it's been a wonderful, bustling place. And they've renovated all their ancient churches, which are on these sacred grounds, which have been historically Armenian. And they reclaimed their lands. And then after the war, because they won this war against Azerbaijan for their independence, it just became a most magnificent place, a place of tourism, a place of pilgrimage. I wish I knew the numbers, Father. I apologize. I don't know, but I'm just looking through this book that we just published for our festival for tomorrow, our food festival. But, I'm just looking, and of course I'm very familiar with a lot of these monasteries. You can probably see, here's a couple pictures, images of some of our monasteries, and they're ancient. We have the Zizernaga Vank, we have Dadi Vank, which is now is Azerbaijan. People have been fled because the war is over. I'll talk a bit about that, of course. The Amaras Monastery, Kansasar Monastery, Yeritz Mangans Monastery, and you probably heard about the one in Shushi. Now it's formerly known as Shusha, but now once again being referred to as Shusha because it's now part of Azerbaijan again. Well, the Armenians went to war recently, starting on September 26th, which, by the way, preceded the birth of my two twin grandsons by son and daughter-in-law at the time. On September 27th, when they were born, I said, you know what? They are soldiers. They were born into war as Armenians. Third generation, mind you, but still Armenians. And so they're soldiers. So Sebastian and Luke are doing very well. And they're born in pandemic. They're born during this war for our ancient lands of our heritage and faith. And so they're going to remember this all their lives. And so in honor of these soldiers that have offered their lives, both living and victorious, we'll say, because thousands of soldiers fought this battle. I'm wearing my son's own army gown for the 40-day period of mourning, of grieving. Number one, the loss of these young men, and also, sadly, the loss of the war, frankly.
Right.
And
won
the first war 30 years ago. This was not a war on the ground. I mean, the Armenians would have fought for that land tooth and nail, but they were fighting powers that were beyond their imagination. To hold out for 56, 60 days is really by the grace of God.
And this is one of those things, I mean, I hate to say it, it was a matter of time. Because Azerbaijan, with its oil revenue and proximity to Turkey, and just getting bigger and stronger economically and so on, and Armenia doesn't have access to that kind of thing.
No,
has access to a wonderful culture, and devotion and things. But
correct, yeah, they're people who want to work and feed their families and care for their children, and they want to build schools, and they want to renovate their ancient churches and their monasteries, and they want to. They want to have peace, and they were Christian people. I hate to, I know that there are probably some very wonderful Turks and Azeris out there, but this is our culture, is one of peace, one of family, one of hope, one of goodness and growth and creativity. It's not one of, oppression and so on. That's what we're faced with. So while Azerbaijan was building their army, building their military infrastructure, and they used Israeli drones and F-16s from Turkey to destroy even civilian targets, and our in Shushi and Stepanakert, they were using cluster bombs on civilian targets. The Armenians, they were standing in those same trenches that they fought the war 30 years ago when it was a ground war, and while they were outnumbered, they succeeded in defending their land back then. This was a different war. Like you said, it was an eventuality.
Yeah, and
But the Armenians are,
I want to hold you off, right? Because we want to get you into this because people, they understand something bad's going on, but they don't understand the geography of it. And I want us to get there, but I want us to get there through something else. You mentioned it was beautiful. You talk about, family and stuff, and you mentioned your two grandkids. Awesome. So the last time, see, we served together in Rhode Island,
yeah.
right? And
I still miss you, by the way.
I miss you. And when I left, you were having a few health problems.
Yeah, severe.
That was a close thing. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, that's right, Father. I was on the brink of death, literally, at death's door, and finally, after 12 years of heart failure, growing worse, I ended up going into the heart failure clinic because I was diagnosed at that point after my final echo with a 5% function of my heart, my left ventricle. And I knew it was bad. I mean, I knew it was bad. And, I went to see the doctors there. The guy took one look at me and he felt my upper thigh and he kind of squeezed and he said, "You're carrying about 70 pounds of water on you." And I said, "How do you know that?" He goes, "Been doing this a long time." So they want to send me right into the hospital. And I said, "I can't. I have a baptism tomorrow. It's the Feast of the Holy Cross." It was September 17th, Sunday. In the Armenian Orthodox tradition, we celebrate the Feast of the Cross always on the middle Sunday of September, rather than on the particular day of the 15th. So it was a Feast of the Cross. And he says to me, he goes, "Father, I'm Jewish. I don't know about all that. I just know you're going to die." So I said, "Well, no, I'll come in, but let me do this." And I said, "How long will I be?" And he goes, "Well, fasten your seatbelts." I mean, what does that mean? So I went, I did my baptism Saturday, felt horrible. And I came in Sunday, I celebrated the Divine Liturgy. And when it came time for at the conclusion for the procession of the cross, I have to exalt the cross and I have to say, "Lord, have mercy," 40 times. And I couldn't do it. I got through the Divine Liturgy. I got through it and I preached, but I couldn't hold that cross up in the air. It's heavy, right? And I had my deacon do it. So he was pretty excited because, wow, I'm a deacon. I get to, kind of like play priest for, and I got, after the Divine Liturgy, I sat there and I just thought I was going to die. I made it home. And then I went to the hospital that night and I didn't come home for 7 months. 6 months, whatever. And I ended up receiving two what they call ventricular assist devices. So I ended up coming home after I got better, almost died. I had a couple of incidents during surgery and after, I'm not sure what, but I I was on dialysis. My kidneys had failed or failing. I don't know. And I had ended up being resuscitated a couple of times with cardiac arrest during those things. And I had a major bleed, but made it out, got the pumps put in, started to recover, ended up going to rehab. And I got taken in on a bed in the ambulance, and I left there on my own 2 feet 40 days later. And I came home and I just, got myself back in shape, went to the rehab, did all that. And then on October of 2018, I got called and I received a new heart. So by the gift of God, by the grace of God, sadly, it was a young man, 25-year-old kid, beautiful kid. I know who it is. And he passed away in some tragic accident. And he was an athletic guy, young guy, and successful graduate of a great school, and had started his life, and he died tragically. So I received his heart. So I committed myself to being a good steward of that precious gift. So things are great, and I'm doing well. I've been back on the ice playing hockey, and I'm busy and doing my thing. And unfortunately, COVID kind of tries to restrict us, but I'm not a really good rule follower. I have three bosses: God, my wife, and my bishop, in that order. I don't like to follow anybody else's rules, as you know, right? So while governors and presidents and representatives, they try to enforce all these rules, I'm not a real rule follower. I do what I do because I think it's the right thing. I've got my mask, and we wear our masks, and we try to stay safe, but we're doing our thing. We're warriors, we're soldiers. So in honor of these wonderful young men who died for 40 days until we celebrate our promise on their 40th day of their requiem, I'm gonna keep this jacket on.
Wonderful. Yeah. And so y'all, be an organ donor. Come on.
Yeah.
Do it.
Really easy to do, Father. Well, forget the www. That tells you my age. You don't have to say it. Registerme.org. Registerme.org. It's really just that simple. Where's the registerme.org?
Excellent. Yeah.
And you'll become an organ donor. That simple. And you know what? No one wants to be the organ donor, but everyone should be prepared to be the organ donor. It's like buying life insurance. You don't want to ever use it, but you have it in case you have a family. Well, we're a world. You don't want to throw that kind of a value, that kind of gift in the ground if you don't help it. So if someone saves one life, it's worth it.
Yeah. Do it. That's all.
Thank you.
Yeah. And in the meantime, give blood.
Yeah.
So do what you can. Yeah. Fantastic. So tell us about your community there.
Yeah, so things are great. It's a pretty vibrant community. It's tough because we're very much now a third generation, fourth generation Armenian American community, and so you can imagine we have a lot of assimilation. Pretty much at this point, very assimilated. We have a lot of immigrants from formerly from Armenia who have come. They came after the fall of the Soviet Union. So we've tried to graft them as a vital part of our community. You got to remember, they grew up in a time when there was like atheist, Soviet Armenia. And so they were very much separated from the life of their church and understanding and so on. So we worked really hard to integrate them into our community as much as possible. And we've gotten to get to know them, and wonderful, wonderful people. They've really brought a different life to our community, especially now with this war. We're all like Artsakh power, I got my little, so some of the gals, they're doing all kinds of little fundraisers and various things. And so that's brought new life to our church too, even in the midst of this horrible crisis. So this is the Christian response, right? And, we're all still saying Hach Deluenk, which in Armenian means we're going to win, because this war is not over. Armenians have been fighting this war for a long time, the war, if you will. We're 100 years removed from the Armenian Genocide, where all of our ancestors from Western historical Armenia were dispersed after 1.5 million people died. And then, we know that the first battle in defense of Christianity was fought by Armenians in 451 during the Council of Chalcedon. So that's why the Armenians weren't there, by the way. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That cross I bought that when I was in Armenia in some village. I couldn't even tell you the name of the village anymore. But it's near Echmiadzin, which is the sacred site where St. Gregory built the first cathedral, which is still standing. In the year 301 it was commissioned. But the cross was offered in honor of the 100th anniversary of our parish. So we brought it from Armenia, had it placed there. It's beautiful. It's that tooth stone that's only indigenous really to that Caucasus region, especially in Armenia. Yeah, Google. Yeah, as a matter right, and no two are the same. They're like snowflakes, and there's a whole theology to it. They have 7 dimensions, and there's a whole thing. But you can look it up. If you want to look it up on Google, you would write Khatchkar, which means crossed stone. Crossed stone. This is a very unique kind of an iconography of the Armenians, if you will, kind of an iconography. And they're speckled all over the lands. There are still Khachkars, cross stones, found in the ruins in the ancient villages of Armenia in Turkey. So as much as Turkey wants to hide the fact that Armenians ever lived there or that there were Christians living there, not to mention Greeks and whatever else, I mean, in those whole that from Cilician Armenia to Cappadocia and all these places up until Amasya, where their ancient bishops presided and held conference, even into Constantinople, obviously. These cross stone remnants are still found in those lands, and in Artsakh, in fact, the one priest, Father Hovannes, Father John, and Dadivank, which is now taken over, it's now occupied by Azeris. The monastery there has these two magnificent ancient cross stones, which look like lace, and they're like chiseled out of the rock. They were taken last week and brought back to Armenia now for safety. And the priest said they will return. And he's convinced, and he goes, I'm not leaving. I'm staying here. They want to take my neck. They can take my neck. They're not taking my faith.
Wow.
So we have these living saints among us.
Amen. Yeah, and I was making a joke because I mean it really is. It's such a beautiful example of a cross stone, and it's overlooking. It's trying to bless the capital.
Yes, because we literally have a separation of church and state here in Rhode Island, right? We've got our church, we've got the Route 95, and then we got the State House. So we got the dome of the State House, and then we have the church dome, right facing each other.
Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic.
I would make jokes, but I'm going to be kind.
Oh, yeah, and it really is a wonderful community. And
so we turn and we renounce Satan. You know which way we turn, right? No, I'm kidding.
Hey, we just lost your picture. I just have an S.
Oh, maybe. I'm sorry. That was my bad.
It's an S for Shnork.
What did I do here? Did you get me back yet?
Not yet.
Oh.
There you are. Yeah. And I don't know if you notice his accent, or let me put, and I've been showing them pictures. If they're watching on YouTube, I've been showing them pictures of stones and stuff. And okay, I want you to see a picture of Father Shnork serving the liturgy, and he beautiful vestments. Yeah, you do. Tell us about that. Where are you from?
Toronto. It's really a one-syllable word. Toronto. When you're from Toronto, you say Toronto. I'm from Toronto, and they go, "What?" Like when you tell Armenians. When I tell Armenians we're immigrants, I go, "Father, where are you from?" And I say Toronto. And they go, "Oh, Cairo." Because they have a big Egyptian Armenian community, right?
Yeah.
I go, "No, Toronto." "Oh, Toronto." Yeah. But I've been here 20 years. I'm second generation.
Yeah. And was there a big immigration to Canada?
Not initially. Not initially. A lot of them came to the States. I mean, we had a lot that came. We had orphans that were brought and learned agriculture and became short, little, dark Englishmen soon after their assimilation. And many of them Protestant, because they were the missionaries that brought them. But no, we had then more later on, they start coming from, you can imagine, they start coming from Istanbul, Constantinople. They start coming from Egypt, and all related to various things, political things that were going on in those places. Egypt, naturally, Turkey is a problem. And we have Armenians that still live in these places, but life gets tougher for these people as time goes on. Look at the Copts, and so
right.
on.
And so Armenians,
Syria, Lebanon.
Armenians were everywhere, and they were evangelists, right? If you go to the Holy Land, if all you know is modern history, you're like, Armenia's tiny, right? It's this tiny country. No. So give us this Patriots, tell us about Armenia.
Yeah. So this is cool because, like I said, I'm a Canadian Armenian. My dad was born in Toronto, and my mom was born in France, so she's a diasporan Armenian. And their parents were all orphans, and they weren't really educated, as much as they could be. Self-educated. Education is important for Armenians, naturally. But so I went on my first pilgrimage to Jerusalem. Just the year I ended up really sick. It was January. It's tough for me. So went to Bethlehem, went here, went there, went to the, Dead Sea, went to, the whole thing, did the whole Holy Land pilgrimage. But when I ever went into the Holy Sepulchre, I was so blown away. I couldn't believe it. I went, oh my God, we're this tiny little dinky people that most people haven't even heard of. And you go to the Holy Sepulchre, Christ's the place which houses Christ's tomb and Golgotha, where he was crucified, and the stone on which his body would have been quickly anointed to get, for the Sabbath in preparation of the. And it's so Armenian. I mean, it was like there was so much Armenian religious art, and you could see Armenian monks coming and going, and they were doing this. There's even a whole Armenian chapel which is overlooking the Edicule, which is where Christ was buried, from which he rose again. And it was like I'd heard these things, but I couldn't quite imagine the magnitude of the Armenian presence in the Holy Land. And we knew, and I knew, and maybe you all know if you're listening, or I should say that like Father Anthony, y'all know that Jerusalem, ancient, like historical, the old city is subdivided to 4 parts, of which one part is the Armenian quarter. Yeah. Much thanks to an ancient patriarch of Jerusalem, Armenian patriarch of Jerusalem, St. Gregory the Chainbearer. You look up St. Gregory the Chainbearer, magnificent story. And I know that one of our seminary professors, Dr. Roberta Irvin, has done some real great research on him and many, many others. She's not Armenian. She's amazing. She's a convert, and she's done some great work. And St. Gregory the Chainbearer didn't want to be remembered for anything, but he laid such a wonderful groundwork. I mean, he would have been great at Monopoly, right? And he, from his efforts to preserve these sacred heritage sites, they are influenced. And there are way more. I mean, it's like 2/3 of Armenians live in diaspora.
Right. Yeah.
There are probably 10 million Armenians in the world, probably of which 2.5 million only live in Armenia itself.
Yeah, yeah.
We're very much a diaspora.
And the church is very much a part of that identity, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So
profound, foundational part of that community.
So now, if you look at a map, you'll see where Armenia is. It's in the Caucasus, right? And it's there, along with Azerbaijan and Georgia, right? But it used to be larger, right? And so when you speak about, and I'm going to say it wrong, Asrakh, is that close? Nagorno-Karabakh, the Republic. Artsakh, yeah. That was one of the provinces. It was just, part of the Armenian, not an empire, the Armenian nation, right?
Yeah, so Armenia at one point was sea to sea on 3 parts. It extended from the Black Sea down to the Mediterranean, over to the Caspian. Imagine that, right?
Wow.
But now it's very small, but still an amazingly diverse geography.
Yeah.
And it's so sad for Artsakh, for Nagorno-Karabakh, because if you could ever see some of the natural history and geography, it's incredibly beautiful. But it's really tragic.
And where was your family from?
So my family is all entirely from Western Armenia, historical Armenia. So my mom's side would be near the Black Sea, Amasya, Marzivan, near what's today in Turkey called Sivas, sort of the middle of present day Turkey, north towards the Black Sea. So they're from towns of Amasya and Marzivan. My grandpa and grandma, and they were orphans. They left there earlier, but they're beautiful areas. Amasyas particularly is like Switzerland of Turkey type of thing, gorgeous with mountains and everything. And then my dad's family are from his father's side is from Van. You'll see Lake Van in Turkey. Yeah, that's where he's from. From the same town of one of my patrons, my personal patron saint, St. Gregory of Datev. That's a whole other subject one day I'll talk to you about. But anyway, St. Gregory of Datev is from Van, and that's where my paternal grandfather's family is from. But then they went to Constantinople. My great-grandfather became had a very important position in during this millet system at the Patriarchate, the Armenian Patriarchate, and was one of the first 200 to be hung on April 24th, 1915, when the genocide began. So that's kind of a family badge of honor, if you want to call it that. He became a martyr, and they're canonized. The church canonized the ethno martyrs, as the Greeks call them, the ones from Smyrna. We use the same sort of language. And then my grandmother is from the port on the Bosphorus, which is called Bursa, which you've probably heard of. So we have no family living there anymore. Naturally, even my one living paternal, the sister of my grandmother, was living in here's a cool area, Kadakyu, which is what? That's Kadakyu, which is what? Chalcedon. That's where my grandmother's sister lived. She passed away a number of years ago. My dad was able to visit his aunt once in his life. He went there. Anyway, and so that's where our family's from. But then, of course, they ended up, dispersed all over the place,
All right.
and here we are.
So to set us up for what's been going on, well, really since 1991, it was also in the early 20th century, right? But talk to us about that martyrdom that started in 1915. What happened? Because this shows up. This may be on people's radar. They've heard about, whether it was a genocide or not. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So in the fog of World War II, Turkey, who was allied, in the fog of World War I, Turkey, who was allied with Germany, ended up, so the Young Turk Party kind of took over, and they sort of removed themselves from, kind of almost secularized themselves from their more Ottoman tradition, and in doing so, gave rise to a very strong nationalism, which is still, raging in Turkey today. We know that with Erdogan, who considers himself really the new caliph, or the new sultan, or whatever you want to call him. And he has his eyes now. He was quoted as saying last week that, okay, we're done with that. Now we're going to move on to Cyprus. This is frightening. Right now, Armenia is really only has, up to now, has really only had a verbal alliance, like a voice for them from Greece, because they have a common enemy, and they have common, they're common people, right? I mean, we have a common culture, common faith, and so on. But so what happened was they, under the skies of this nationalism and this desire to achieve the dream of Pan-Turanism, started to exile under the guise of, because of the war, we want to keep everything. They sent the men of the villages in the eastern provinces, right, to the army. Well, they ended up, gathering up all their weapons and anything they could protect themselves with. And this is why I'm a pro-Second Amendment guy, by the way. You don't want to be caught with your quote-unquote pants down with oppressive government. But sorry, you can delete this part out, can you? Or
no, it's all good. It's all good.
I don't know if your listeners how they feel, but whatever. But so they were unable to defend themselves. They took the men away. Well, they actually killed them. And then the women and the children and the elderly were left. They just came in and they deported them. And most of them didn't even make it a couple of miles out of town. And they drowned them in rivers, shot them, killed them, knifed them, raped them, did horrible things. And then the remnant that made it through this deportation ended up into those deserts and then finally into Syria. And my grandfather would always tell me, he goes, if I was taken right instead of left, I would have been killed in Deir Zor, right, which is in Syria today. And we have these ancient places of pilgrimage now with like thousands and thousands of skulls of dead Armenians that they've dug up in the deserts. Now, of course, ISIS tried to destroy that too, right?
Yeah.
And so it's been a tragic history. Then of course, following the war, First World War, Stalin just randomly, well, I guess he had his reasons, randomly decided to give Nakhichevan, this part of Armenia, and create this place called Azerbaijan. And then there was this other, and that happened. That was done. And what they did was they literally bulldozed all the ancient sacred places in Nakhichevan, which is right on the border of Armenia, between Turkey and Armenia, on the western side of Armenia. So the Russian troops have always, since the fall of the Soviet Union, the Russian bases are lined up along Nakhichevan, along the Turkish border, but Nakhichevan is Azerbaijan, Armenia. Well, now this is another new set of problems because under this new peace deal, which we are kind of forced into, that was brokered by the Russians, Azerbaijan now has taken all that lower region of Artsakh, and which is on the border of Iran, which is really only our one decent trading partner, if you can believe it. You know, in America, we think of Iran as this hostile. They've been good with the Armenians because they have a natural enemy, which is Turkey, right? Ironically, now we've lost that border, and what's the remnant that's left of Armenia and Iran, is now is going to allow for a trade route between Azerbaijan and Turkey. That's all we needed, right? Wow. And it's going to be guarded for 5 years by the Russian army. So, okay, thank God, but then it deprives us of our autonomy. This is a problem. Yeah. So, but we're hopeful that, you know, in 5 years, Armenia has to get its head on straight and realize that when you live next to a wolf and jackals, you got to be a lion. Yeah. No, it's not. Yeah. Yeah. So in that previous war 30 years ago, that was called the Lachin Corridor, which is that whole region, which is like an apron on the border of Armenia around Artsakh, right? The Lachin Corridor. So we had free access, free trade. Armenia itself never recognized Artsakh as an independent republic, specifically for the reason to prevent this type of thing from happening.
Wow.
So let's maintain this sort of ceasefire status and let Artsakh itself consider itself an independent republic.
Yeah.
And naturally, Armenia, you know, it was like a natural, like, I mean, they're the same people, right?
Right.
Well, so all bets are off now. I mean, Armenia has to do everything it can to protect. Now the Russian army is that is protecting that region. What that's going to mean in the future, we're not sure, but the deal is only for 5 years.
Yeah,
so I don't think the Armenians consider the war over.
Yeah, so let's talk that kind of international thing. You talked about Erdogan, right? And he's, you know, he's a no kidding populist, right? He plays up the Islamism. I don't know if he's an Islamist or not, right? But it's easy to call him one. Yeah. He certainly uses it, right? And
absolutely,
this idea of a greater Turkey and everything. And so this, what was the role of Turkey in the recent war?
Yeah. So really, the fact, I mean, the fact is, I wish I could actually verify it now, but the fact is that Turkey fought this war of aggression with Azerbaijan, and really Aliyev is Turkey's, you know, I'm going to be polite, puppet.
Yeah, and Aliyev, that's Azerbaijan's president. He's been there for a long time, right? Aliyev. Yeah, and you know, the Azeris are Turks, right?
Yeah, they're what are, I guess, what you know, they're various words what they are as a people, like Caucasian Albanians, they've called them.
Okay.
Not to be confused with, you know, Albania as we understand it today, this sort of Serbian, but they are kind of, yeah, they're Caucasian Albanians. You know, there's that whole history of the you know, my son knows this better than I do, but yeah. So they're Turkic people, not exactly identical. I don't believe you could say with what the Turks are today.
Gotcha.
But yeah, essentially that, and their language is Turkish. It's a little dialect of Turkish, but they're Turkish. They could communicate no problem with each other.
And again, Azerbaijan has their economy's been doing well. Well, I mean, it's been hurt by the recession and things, and the lowering of natural gas and oil prices and things. But so that's the role of Turkey, right? Certainly doesn't mind squeezing Armenia, opening up trade routes and so on at Armenia's expense.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Father, I don't mean to interrupt you, but like these F-16s that Turkey
Yeah.
was flying in were coming from our air base in Incirlik. Of course. So I mean, the U.S. is complicit because that's why they're silent. Now, of course, now with new government coming into place here in America and so on, everyone makes a big noise. Oh, well, we can count on a new government. But come to find out that, again, I don't want to get into politics. I apologize, but come to find out that the new vice president-elect's husband is a major lobbyist for Turkey. So Armenians
Yeah.
don't have much luck with that.
Yeah. And America's way on the other side of the world, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, there's another big player. Turkey's not the only big player in the region.
Yeah, and
You
that's
mentioned,
where so there's a blessing under the curse,
right.
and so I think more and more Armenians are beginning to realize that there's a whole interesting politics here, and I'm no expert on this, but this seems really bad for Armenia. But I'm dumb enough to be a Christian, and I'm dumb enough to believe in the Lord's promises. And you know what? There is a silver lining in all of this. It seems really horrible now, but so did Good Friday. So Russia very much, we know that Putin wasn't too thrilled with Armenia for the last couple of years because, we had the Velvet Revolution, as you know, a couple of years ago in Armenia, which everyone was excited about, and Armenia started to lean very much upon the West, seeking to develop stronger ties with the West. And in doing that, they tended towards a more secularist mentality and adopted certain values in the West, which really don't jive well with an Armenian cultural heritage. And I don't want to go into detail, but some of what we consider ethical issues here in America, right? And that didn't go over so well with our church either, by the way, you can imagine. Now we even have bishops who are speaking about, the need for change in our government in Armenia because of what we got ourselves into and we lost. And it's set the country into kind of a chaotic place right now, not to the point of civil war, but they all love their land, but they're different ideologies. So it's pro-Pashinyan, anti-Pashinyan. Pashinyan is a traitor. Pashinyan did the only thing he could do. Pashinyan should resign. Pashinyan should stay. Well, Pashinyan was not buddy-buddy with Putin. So I think there's a little bit of a quote-unquote punishment here by Big Daddy next door. So this might be an opportunity for Armenia to lick its wounds, gather itself up, and understand that her friend ultimately is not going to be found in the West.
Yeah.
It's going to be found over there.
Just pure geopolitics.
Yeah,
Right?
and people like to bring the whole religion thing in. I don't think that Putin too, like Erdogan and Trump and everything. You don't know what these guys believe. It doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, our peoples are naturally going to have more in common, with that world. Although it could be very oppressive for Armenia, but it doesn't matter. At least it keeps us alive as a people.
And small states have a way of balancing interests against each other just to provide secure their independence. What are the relations with Georgia like?
Horrific. Terrible. We have disputed lands there as well. And Armenians, feel very oppressed in Georgia. And the Georgians, through this whole war, are very much aligned with Turkey and Azerbaijan. So it's ironic when you see these flags lined up and all of a sudden you've got this one white flag with a red cross and 4 little crosses on each panel lined up with all these moons. That's really weird to us. It's sad. It's tragic. But because that's their trade partners. It's all about economics. And then those disputed regions are interesting because they're highly populated by Armenians predominantly. And have you ever seen a Georgian church? What do they look like?
Yeah. They've got the conical tops.
They look like Armenian churches.
Oh, listen to you. That cracks me up.
No. If you look up, so like ancient Georgian churches and Armenian churches, they're identical, actually. They're identical. So we have a lot of churches in Georgia, in the southern parts there, that have been taken by the Georgian Patriarchate, and they've literally scratched out on that tombstone the Armenian writing and put in their own, So those are unfortunate things. That's why who recognized Artsakh? but Ossetia, Crimea, these types of countries, right? Naturally, because they're dealing with the same stuff, right?
Oh, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Abkhazia, there's another one.
Right.
Most people never heard of these places, right?
Ah,
Yeah,
yeah. What a mess. Lord have mercy.
yeah,
Yeah, and
absolutely.
I hope it is a good Friday. In the sense that it'll
I think
bring,
so.
you
I
know,
believe that. I believe that.
outpouring of the gospel.
We're survivors. I mean, we're survivors. We've given so many martyrs to the church. We've undergone all sorts of horrible persecutions and oppression. We're this tiny little. We're the linchpin. That's you know that's the cog in the wheel of Panturism of the grand Turkish scheme. And I mean, you asked about Turkey earlier. You know for a fact, right, that Turkey was bringing ISIS fighters from Syria, paying them off as cannon fodder to go fight against the Armenians. They got slaughtered. They got slaughtered. I hate to say it that way, but these poor kids who were just mercenaries, paid chaff, they got slaughtered by the Armenians. I saw videos and they're like because they can't fight. They're lousy. They were lousy fighters there, but they're bullies, and they're lousy fighters in Azerbaijan more so because the Armenians know how to fight in those lands. They just were under resourced, under equipped, and undermanned with Turkey involved. So
Wow.
there are thousands of dead ISIS fighters there, littered in those fields. Yeah, they don't care. It's cheaper to pay a family $1,200 to bring their son to die in Artsakh than it was to pay for those drones from Israel. You'd rather throw $50,000 worth of dead men walking and get slaughtered just to impede the Armenians, and that's what it became. It's
Yeah.
horrific. If we knew what Turkey, how they were involved in this, it's their war crimes and those cluster bombs and that phosphorus. I have a friend whose brother is in the hospital in Yerevan right now with those phosphorus burns, and he might go blind. It's horrible.
Wow.
Kind of a modern day napalm sort of idea.
Yeah. And y'all, with this thing with the ISIS, just because you haven't heard of it doesn't mean it isn't true. This,
Yeah.
this, the jihadists moving to wherever the fight is, and fights against Christians are popular, right? That's what you'll see. You saw it in Chechnya as well.
Yeah.
So it's a mess. So there was a movie that came out a few years ago about the Armenian genocide. What was it? Was
Promise.
The Promise? Right. Yeah. Is that? Do you recommend that?
Yeah, no, it was good. It was pretty accurate. Of course, it's so Hollywood though, because I liked it. It was good. It told the story pretty well, a glimpse of the story, like every other story, right? Of course, it was American made, and so they always had to have that intrigue, right? The love triangle and all this stuff. Yeah, I could do without that, but don't go by me. I'm a conservative old fart, right? But no, it told us. It did a pretty good job, I would say. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, check that out. I think it's on Netflix right now. So
it is.
you can watch it. And do you have a sense of how many Armenians were martyred
During the genocide
Yeah.
or during this?
during the genocide?
Yeah, the genocide, the official number that we've always used is around about 1.5 million. Yeah.
Yeah. And oh my goodness.
But so like I said earlier, on the 100th anniversary of the genocide, the church canonized them.
Yeah.
And so we have icons of these martyrs, known and unknown. Yeah, and I think more and more we're going to. This is a recipe, if you will, that the church has kind of forgotten. The Armenian Church has not canonized anyone in probably a few hundred years before that. So this is a novelty for us in the last couple of hundred years. We've been so busy, just licking wounds.
Right.
Our monasteries, our convents, our heritage was destroyed. It was ripped apart. When Armenians came to America, they didn't know what to do with themselves. They had no clue. And so the church struggled. They had orphans going to Jerusalem. They put them through I'm being facetious on purpose, but they put them through the priest factory. They were orphans. They made them priests. They came and they served, and they did. They served. But their job was both spiritual and national. Like they had to keep the Armenian heritage alive. It was a diaspora world. Armenia was under Soviet Union, Soviet rule, atheism. So they did the best they could. Now, finally, we're beginning to educate a whole new generation of wonderful clergy in Armenia and in the diaspora. We have our own seminary here in New York. And, it's a far cry from where we were 100 years ago, and even 50 years ago, and even 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. We have seminaries, but our monasteries are destroyed. Our convents, the two first Armenian saints were women. They were nuns. We don't have an Armenian nun. For all intents and purposes, we don't have an Armenian nun today. How tragic is that? Armenians don't even know that you could have nuns. What? That's a Catholic thing. No. Yeah, they don't know. We have few monks, when I say monks, we have celibate priests, but real monastic life. Even Jerusalem, it's questionable how much we need order. Yeah. And these are things that we're rediscovering now, slowly but surely. We have wonderful clergy who are striving towards reinvigorating that. And this canonization of saints was all part of that, right? We need a church that's a praying church,
right?
A church that's not praying Sunday morning in the parishes. Sure, we do that. That should be the minimum. We need communities of people praying for us.
So, given the way that Orthodoxy, Christianity, and being Armenian are tied together, anytime there's a war, right? There's a rally around the flag. Could this also help invigorate monasticism? Could it, because you've got these ancient monasteries, go there and rehab, right? Go there and bring prayer back to them.
That's interesting, because that is true historically. I'm not sure that there's that spirit or that thing right now. I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
Because I know there's a lot of anger and hatred, which we need to combat. Right. You'll hear a lot of this, tit for tat, don't turn the other cheek, hate, kill. Of course. I'd be the first to admit that's your human reaction. It's natural. Really? You kill my brother? I'm going to kill you. There's that. That's a natural emotion. But as Christians, we have to rise above that, And this is really challenging for us right now. I pointed out in our prayers, look, we pray for our enemies. Really? Is that there? Yeah, it's there. Yeah. This is a tough thing. We all deal with this as clergy, especially in this modern age. That's not part of the normal mindset. Okay, grandma died and now she's an angel in heaven. That's what that's the kind of mentality we're fighting against. Right?
Deep theology, yeah.
Yeah, you see what I mean? Right.
Oh, wow. Yeah. But Armenia, it's such a rich tradition. Being Christian as long as there have been Christians, First Christian nation, is that right?
First Christian nation. First nation to adopt Christianity as a state religion. King Durtad in 301, who persecuted the church, right? He was the one who had those convents destroyed, and Saints Haripsime and Gayane, whose icons I have on my wall here. You can't see them, but yeah, and he became a Christian. He was cured of a horrible illness, and his sister was a Christian, closet Christian, so to speak. She kept Saint Gregory alive, or her girls kept St. Gregory alive for 13 years while he was in the pit. You can go visit that pit. By the way, for Christians out there, Orthodox Christians, don't be surprised. Don't think, well, I want to go to Aruba this year. Armenia is a great place to visit as a tourist. It's a great place. I know war and all that, but you know what? It's really a great place. Obviously, you're not going to go now during COVID and the aftermath. It's a wonderful place to visit. You'll be amazed by the small little country, the amazing places you'll see, and the hospitality and the food and the culture and everything. But yeah, you can go to these places of pilgrimage, these ancient sites, and it's really inspiring. You go into the pit where St. Gregory was, you come out, and there's Mount Ararat right in front of you, where Noah's Ark landed. It's right there. Historical Armenia, unfortunately, it's part of Turkey, but you have this vista, this beautiful view, amazing things to see. But
yeah. And yeah, just beautiful people. So yeah, let's sell that a little bit, because I'd love to go. I'd love to go with you.
I'd love to go with you.
So how handicapped would I be not speaking a lick?
No problem.
Because there's so much diaspora, right?
Well, that's the one good thing of leading west, because all the kids have learned English now. The new generation all know English, and they know it pretty well.
Yeah.
We have a whole batch of priests from the graduates of the seminary in Echmiadzin who've come over the last 12 or 14 years in our diocese. And at first we're like, well, these kids are coming from Armenia, the enculturation, blah, blah, that whole thing, right? They've done great. They're smart. They're progressive in a good way. They're bright. They're techie. They're,
And
yeah.
and they've got initiative. That's
They're
that's what I love.
They believe in their church. They believe in their people. They're progressive in a way that like they speak English, Armenian. They even speak Western Armenian, which we speak, the two major dialects. They speak Armenian the way we do if they need to. They preach. They know Russian fluently. I mean, they're really great to have here. We love them. They're great. They brought a new life to our diocese here.
Fantastic. Yeah. Our experience with the clergy from Ukraine and seminarians from Ukraine that we train here is the same. I mean,
I'm glad
they're just
to hear
they come. They have this energy. They have this love, and they're part of an ancient culture, right? And I love America. My family's been here for 400 years, right?
Yeah, who doesn't, right?
But when stop it.
I'm not saying anything.
Yeah, it's just awesome. It's wonderful to have their witness, as it is yours. So sell us on your food festival tomorrow.
We're excited. We didn't even know if we'd have it, but we've been very active during this whole thing. I was told by my bishop and my nurses and doctors, you stay home.
Yeah.
I'm immune compromised.
Yes, you are.
I take like I don't know how many pills a day. I take immunosuppressants. I take certain all kinds of these drugs. No heart medication though, which is good. I'm done with all that. But I've been a good patient. I'm very careful.
Yeah.
I keep my distance, but we've been very active. It's great. I have a wonderful parish here, and we did a lot of outreach during the pandemic in the initial stages, and we've been celebrating our liturgies, and we're doing baptisms and whatnot. But it's good. So we have this annual festival, bazaar, which we do always in November, kind of Thanksgiving time, before Thanksgiving. And we thought, well, how's it going to be and everything? So we did it right. We did it a lot of pickup type of thing. Like we had people pre-order. Our numbers are just as good as they normally would have been. Yeah. So we have it set up in the hall in such a way that we're not going to encourage people to sit. So we don't have a lot of tables out. Yeah. They can come pick up their food. A little bit of social, but not too, we're not encouraging that. But we'll be playing Armenian music. We have a whole section of it with tables, with things that they can pick up and buy and support. And those proceeds are going to go towards humanitarian aid, because we have 100,000 refugees now in Armenia. It's a horrific humanitarian crisis now we're dealing. And COVID is rampant in Armenia, by the way. Yeah. If you go online and you look at some of the videos coming out, they're in the city, right in the middle of the city, yelling and screaming, and what do we do now? And the president, the prime minister, and forget mass. And it's like they're angry, they're upset, they feel right. So they're dealing with that. So it's we need to help them too.
Yeah.
Our church made a $47,000 donation to humanitarian aid, which I was really proud of, and we just received another about $7,000 or $8,000 that we're ready to send. We want to target this one. The other one went to the Armenia Fund. What's really cool, Father, is you'll be pleased to know that the Rhode Island Orthodox Clergy Fellowship, in which about which you have great memories and you were an integral part of, donated $500 towards the Armenia Fund.
Fantastic.
And Bishop Tobin, an old friend of ours, right? Bishop of the Roman Catholic Diocese here in Providence, came to a service we did last week, and he offered us $3,000, which was so kind. And then the Greek, Father Andrews, the Annunciation Parish, is Philip Tokos, the women's group. It just made another donation of $500. So it's so great to have the community rallying around us at this time. Right. And we had so many of the clergy that came and prayed with us last week, which was wonderful. You probably saw the pictures online, right?
I did. Yeah, and you've got them on your website too.
No. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good. You know what? We're feeling better and better every day. I mean, I might look odd because I'm wearing this, and people go like, "What is this guy, an army chaplain?" or something. But it's an opportunity to tell them what went on because they don't know.
Yeah, and it reminds you as well.
reminds me.
I remember.
Reminds me, and by the way, it reminds me of my son's own service to our country, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's good.
So one more superficial thing, and then
Sure.
we'll wrap up. So, what are the most popular foods at the festival?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. We've been fasting all day, so I'm dying. Talking about food is like I have an apple. I have apples on my desk. I haven't even. I'm
You are
dying
such
here.
an ascetic.
No, not really. More of a pathetic. But anyway, no, I'm not bragging. I'm bad at this. You know what? I'm not a good. I'm not. I don't like this part of my orthodoxy at all. Ugh, I'm not good at it.
You have one of the best. Had one of the best lines. You had someone who come to you and said, Father, I'm spiritual. I'm not religious." And you
Oh,
were tell them your response.
you referred to that in one of your blogs.
Oh, it's awesome.
Right? I'm not spiritual. I'm a slob. I'm the most carnal man there is. Okay.
Yeah, if we weren't religious, we'd be
My
lost.
hot sauce on my desk with everything I eat, and you know. Yeah. No, but so we have. Oh my gosh. Father, you have a couple seconds? Look at this. Okay, here we go. Here's our book for our bizarre book. So we have. Well, okay, you know what? I won't show you that. We have shish kebab naturally, and Armenian shish kebab is the best. Okay, your shashlik and all this stuff. Come on, doesn't everyone say that? Oh, ours is the best. No, but we have shish kebab. We have losh kebab, which are the patties, which are like all. When I played hockey in New Jersey, my wife used to make these losh kebab patties, burgers. I hate calling them that, and I take them to for post game tailgates, right? And the guys would go, "Oh, give me the ketchup." I go, "Don't you dare put ketchup on that." Well, how about some mustard and relish? Don't you dare put anything on it. You eat that as is. How can you eat it? Well, I said, it's sacrilegious. You eat that. And so they ate them like, wow, this is really good. So I used to call them Padre burgers.
So much flavor. So much flavor.
We have the koftas, which are it's got the ground meat prepared on the inside, and then it's wrapped with this meat. And I wish I knew what goes into it. I don't even know. It's got it's a 2-layer ball, and you boil it in like a chicken broth. Oh, delicious. And they got of course the Armenian pilaf, and they got all the various mezes. It's toned down this year. It's modified. Like our menu's like maybe a third of its usual menu, but we have all kinds of great things. And then the pastries are out of this world.
Yes.
The Armenian katas and the Armenian hurabyas and the Armenian Easter bread, the chorek, right, and various other things. So we're looking forward to it. I kind of will blow my brains out tomorrow with food, but I apologize in advance.
It is what it is. Yeah. When I stayed in Moscow for a while, and I had my favorite outdoor vendors, right? And one of them was where I'd go, and I don't even remember what they called it, right? But it's it's donors, whatever. And I would always get them with Armenian sauce.
Oh,
and I don't
nice.
see, and I don't know. It may not even be Armenian, because that's how stuff happens, right? But it was a nice spicy sauce.
A lot of the foods that we eat are kind of like regional in reality. Like so I grew up very much with kind of like the Western Armenian fare, which I hate to say this, but it's like often like very, very kind of Turkish. Mm-hmm. If you go to Constantinople and you eat foods there, this is what I grew up with. But if you go to Armenia, you'll have all that. You'll naturally have all that and more. But there's a lot of fusion of different things. Like Armenians eat a lot of Middle Eastern food, which you consider Armenian cuisine, but it's really Lebanese or Syrian. And it's funny because one of my favorite things to eat is Afghan food, which I'm sure you like too, naturally, right? But Afghan food's great because it's a fusion of some of my favorite things. It's got Turkish influence, it's got Indian influence and Asian and stuff, and it's oh my gosh. So yeah, food, like the people with whom you eat, should be memorable.
Yeah,
we're not a fast food culture, right?
Right. Yeah, that's beautiful.
That's the one beauty of Orthodoxy. A lot of Western Christians think, well, I go to church because my obligation, and I go to mass or I go to church and we sing a couple of hymns and we leave. No, it's body, soul, and all things, right? I mean, it's a truly a carnal experience to be a Christian for us, right?
It is.
You're genuflecting. You're bowing down, touching, grabbing the earth and crossing yourself. By the way, the word in Armenian for the prostration is yergir bakestsuk, which literally means kissing the ground,
Oh, wow.
bowing down, like literally taking the ground and like being part of it. It's incarnate. It's Christ coming to earth and implanting himself in it. Like when, at the blessing of the water where you take your cross and you plunge it into the water. That's Christ plunging himself in the midst of humanity. And even the trees start bowing down, as we see in the icon, right?
Yeah. Beautiful,
You
beautiful.
have to, for listeners, you have to forgive us because Father Anthony and I, we get all emotional and excited about this stuff.
Yeah,
Anyway.
and food's part of it. Food's part
Yes,
of that incarnational nature of the
when
church.
I was in seminary, I wanted to get a bumper sticker made, and everyone told me I was crazy and I was going to cause problems. I'm going to get a bumper sticker that read, "Piss Satan off, eat God."
You are so bad.
I don't get it. Well, because you're not really Christian. If you were Christian, you'd understand exactly what that means.
Yes, right?
I never did it. I should have. I should get some T-shirts made. Would you wear one?
Probably not.
Oh, okay. To the gym when you're running?
When I'm running, yes.
Yeah. We sit at the Lord's table, right?
Right. And it is the description of what it is that the Lord uses. I mean, it's very visceral, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, Father, it's so good to reconnect with you. Thank you for sharing your witness, your joy, and the story of the martyrdom of your people.
Thank you.
Can you offer a blessing for our listeners?
I will be happy to do that. Pardon me. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, now and always, and unto the ages of ages. Amen. Guardian of all, O Christ, our God, guard and protect us and all these listeners who have gathered here today under the shadow of your holy and precious cross and peace. Deliver us from enemies, visible and invisible. Make us all worthy to glorify you, together with your Father and the Holy Spirit, both now and always, and unto the ages of ages. Amen.
Amen.
God bless you all.
Yeah.
Thank you, Father.
All right.
Appreciate it. Have a blessed Advent.
Yeah, you too. And a blessed feast. I hope it goes very well for y'all.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Give my love to the family.
Yeah, you too.
Okay.